I will encourage you as well to use the chat box, because I want this session, this breakout session, to be as interactive as possible. And let's take advantage of this next 30, 40 minutes that we will be sharing in this breakout session to create a safe space and start practicing collaboration as from now. I don't know where you are, in what hemisphere you are, so maybe you're starting your summer break, your summer holidays. So let's not wait, in our case, till Monday or till the classes begin again to start thinking about collaborating with colleagues. Let's start with this small community here, sharing ideas. I will be talking about Latin American reality, but of course, you can share your reality from wherever you are in the world. So that's my invitation for today. So let's get started. I'm going to hide this video panel because sometimes you may see like a black box. So just in case. So I divided this session, this presentation, in 3 parts. First, we're going to start talking about staff shortages, which is a very difficult reality we're facing all over the world, really, but especially, and I'm going to be sharing data from some Latin American countries. Feel free to comment what you're experiencing in your own region, in your own country, and let's take advantage of this session to really reflect on our profession and reflect on the reality of the education system, especially after the pandemic, in our own countries and realities. Then the second part of this presentation will be about collaboration. In this case, the benefits and the barriers, the difficulties we may face as teachers or as heads of schools, coordinators, when we begin to foster collaboration, peer collaboration. And then finally, I'll be sharing with you a wonderful initiative that took place in Argentina and Chile in 2022. We're very proud of this initiative, so I will be sharing how it was created, and because of this shortage and to foster peer collaboration, here in this region, we created this initiative, and I want to share the results with you because they were amazing. So let's begin with the data, the difficult part. I like to call it, if I had to take a photo, a snapshot of the reality of our region, unfortunately, the characteristics of our teachers will be, and you can confirm or deny this, especially where a lot of people from Latin America, Uruguay, Argentina, we're a bunch, as someone else said, from Argentina, you can confirm this. The feeling, the general feeling is, I'm stressed out, I'm burned out, I will be dropping out school. I prefer doing something else rather than being here in this classroom. So that's the general feeling. It looks very gloomy and depressing, but this conference is called The Future of English Language Teaching. We can't move forward unless we have a look at what's happening right now in our country, in our region. So let's talk about what's going on in Latin America. I decided to, I've chosen 3 countries, Colombia, Chile, and Argentina, because we could collect data from this country. I'm based in Argentina, so of course we have first-hand data from our network of consultants here at Trinity College who are permanently in contact, and I myself as well when I do training sessions at schools, with teachers and coordinators who are facing these difficulties right now. So of course, this data comes from institutions, organizations, and ministries, but also comes from testimonies of teachers who are facing these problems right now. So what's going on in Colombia? Colombia is facing a very particular problem related to age. So the staff in general is older than the international average. So with this comes a very difficult situation connected to generational renewal. We know that teaching in general is at risk because young adults are not willing to become teachers because it's not attractive to be a teacher anymore, especially in a region where we face economic crisis and the salaries are low. So this is happening in Colombia specifically. 34% of teachers are 50 years old or older. So this means that by the next decade, a third of the teachers will have to be renewed, and that is at risk because we can't cope with the demand of classrooms and students compared with the teachers to cover those positions. And the same happens with heads and coordinators, English language coordinators. 33% are over 60 years old. And after the pandemic, this is something extra that happened because of the pandemic, many teachers around this age decided to retire earlier, leaving a gap in coordination positions and teaching positions. So again, novice teachers taking over with the complexities that we're facing in the teacher training colleges as well. So the situation is very complex as regards age and renewal in Colombia. And this is another situation, and we can design a whole new presentation just based on this last issue. And this information says that 25 students per teacher is the average in primary school. If you tell me that I will have a group of 25 and my colleagues from this region I think they will agree with me, I'll be very happy. My son is going to K5, he's 5 years old. There are 32 students in the kindergarten classroom. Can you imagine 32 5-year-olds and you as a kindergarten teacher? Well, that's the reality. I've had a group of 31 years old in first grade, for example. So 25 it's okay for me. I'll sign for that. But that's the average. Whereas in countries like Finland, for example, if we compare ourselves to Finland, the average is between 13 and 15 students, 13 and 15. And the average in Latin America, in this case in Colombia, is 25 or more. So this opens up a whole new issue because the infrastructure is the same, but we have more and more students inside the same classrooms. And what about the dynamics we can do inside those classrooms with 30 students, with 20-something students? If we think about primary school and how young learners approach the language, they need to use their bodies, they need to sing and dance and act out and move, total physical response and lots of techniques that we could be sharing. They need to be able to move and interact. We can't do that if they're all lining up, sitting down because they are 30 in a reduced space. So this opens up a whole new discussion what we can do as teachers with what we have and the reality that we have. So this contributes to, again, being stressed out because we know what we have to do. We know what the book says and what the theory says, methodology theory says, but we can't put it into practice because of these external situations, and we need to be flexible and adapt all the time. Now, what's happening in Chile? Well, the issues are very similar. They're not specific to one country, but this is where the data comes from. But we can replicate, I'm sure, this in other countries in Latin America and in other countries in the rest of the world. Please feel free to share if you are experiencing the same reality in the chat. In Chile, 95% of teacher shortage is expected by 2025. Again, this is not specific to the ELT sector. This is also related to subjects such as history, geography, natural sciences, but the ELT sector is facing another issue that I'm going to share later on, but 26,000 teachers will be missing, will be needed to meet the demands of the classrooms and the amount of students. Now, what's also happening, again, not only in Chile, but also in Argentina, is an abrupt decrease in the enrollments at teacher training colleges. Young people don't want to become teachers. You may have you may feel the calling. I mean, we can all agree that that's why we do what we do, but it's not attractive or as attractive as it used to be. More courses of studies are becoming more predominant in the choices of young adults. So we are seeing a decrease in the amount of enrollments. So ministerial and university authorities, what they are doing, especially in Chile very actively, is analyzing how they can attract young adults to these courses of studies and then retain students in those careers, because there's a high amount of dropout in the careers. You know that in our profession, or at least that was my case and most of my colleagues, we begin our course of study, but we start working at the same time, so we don't have to wait till we graduate. So sometimes when we start experiencing what it is like, or what it will be like to perform as teachers, they decide to drop because this is not what I want, okay? Now, in Argentina, there are more than 1,500 teacher training colleges. 60% of these are funded by the state, and this is a picture for you to see the distribution. In blue, you can see the state-funded teacher training colleges, and in green, the private ones. Some of them, especially the state ones, are at risk of, I don't want to say closing down because it depends on every institution, but they are facing difficulties because of the lack of enrollments. So again, this is a problematic that affects the region in general. And have a look at this figure, this number that comes from the Ministry of Buenos Aires, Ciudad de Buenos Aires. 25% of novice teachers, so teachers that begin in this profession, drop after the first year of being a teacher at school, being in the classroom. This is not for me. I will do something else. This is very alarming. And what I can tell you from my experience and my colleagues as well, I used to go to teacher training college in the morning, then working at a school in the afternoon, then in the evening, go to a private language institution, and some days of the week had private students. So can you imagine the amount, the workload, the stress, and living in a country or in a region that faces periodical economic crisis with very high inflation rates? Your salary is never enough. So you need to have multiple shifts. And this, of course, affects your mental health, first of all, the mental health of your family and friends, your social time, of course, but then your performance as a professional. I mean, there's so much you can do. Then you have to go home and plan, correct, and all the things, what's called the invisible work that teachers do, and we're not paid for that. We don't get paid for that. And we have to do it as well because it's part of our job. So the situation is very complex. And especially in the ELT sector, what makes it even more difficult to retain professionals at school is that because of the English language proficiency, we can very easily change careers. So for example, if I'm not happy with my salary, or I can't fight over the inflation rates, for example, with the Argentinian peso, what I can do, and especially after the pandemic, when this door opened up or became more prevalent, we can work remotely. I can have private students from all over the world and charge the fees in a stronger currency, US dollars, euros, pounds, you name it, stronger than Argentinian peso, for example. So I don't have to be working at a school. I can work from home with my private students. I can work in companies as well. Maybe they offer more competitive salaries. I can work informally as a translator. This is very common. This happens a lot. Informally, I can translate and I get paid for my services, even if I'm not a translator. Or it was my case again. I'm sharing a lot of my life here in this presentation, but it was in my case, it was very easy for me to transition when I had this feeling that I couldn't handle it anymore, being a teacher and doing all those things that I told you I was doing. I transitioned to being a bilingual assistant, for example. So I used my high level of, my proficiency level of English. And then I took a course to become an assistant, and I worked for a global company for a couple of years. So with our skills that are very useful in the 21st century world and this global world, we can very easily transition. So we are attracted, or we are tempted to leave schools because the possibilities are endless. And this is not happening maybe with other teachers from other subjects, for example, history, geography, the ones that I mentioned before. So again, very difficult to retain a teacher at a school. Now, okay, this was very, this is difficult data, this is depressing, and I mean, this is the situation we're in. And again, this is the future of English language teaching. So if we want to move forward, we need to see what's going on, and we need to face this and try to find solutions. But we need to understand what's happening in our reality. Okay, so how can we move forward, right? What can we do with this situation? Now, these are some strategies that we can use to address this shortage. It will depend on, I mean, if you're a teacher or if you are in a leadership position, if you're a coordinator, the owner of a PLS, private language school, you can do different things. Now, the first thing we need to guarantee, if we are leading or coordinating a group of teachers or any group in general, is to provide a safe environment for the staff, for the teachers, to be able to speak up their minds, okay? Because when they drop, the other day, one of my dear friends and colleagues from Trinity, Argentina, was sharing with us that she was talking with a teacher and a coordinator at school. And she said, no, I can't talk with you right now because I have to be in the classroom. Now, coordinators are filling in those gaps because a teacher WhatsApped me on Sunday night telling me that she won't be coming anymore. Okay, so for someone, for a professional to get to that point where you decide to just, okay, tomorrow I won't show up, it's not something that happens overnight. So in that particular case, maybe she wasn't feeling safe to share what was happening to her. So she got to that point where she said, okay, I can't do this anymore. Okay, so providing a safe space, and not only saying this is a safe space, okay, come here and let's talk. And no, practicing what we preach and really being a safe space for you to come and tell me what you need, and we can help you as a group, as collaborators, okay, so colleagues who collaborate. Now, if you are in a position of compensating and giving benefits to teachers, maybe you can't, if you work in a state school, for example, salaries are automatic. I mean, you can't decide or modify the salary of a teacher, but you can maybe compensate, you can give extra benefits that, again, will make up for the low salaries or high inflation rates. You can improve working conditions. I can give you hundreds of examples, especially in a country as large as Argentina, where the reality is very different. If you live, depending on what province you live and where you are, if you're in a big city or in a small town, the infrastructure are different. Private sector versus public sector, the infrastructure and the working conditions are very different. So whenever, if you're coordinating or leading a group of teachers, whatever you can do to improve those working conditions, teachers will be very thankful to you. You can provide as well career progression opportunities, teacher development, and of course, and this is the core of today's presentation, foster peer collaboration. This is free. This is something you can start practicing as from now, collaborating in the chat box, sharing ideas, sharing emails if you are from the same country. We need to start working together. Synergy is so powerful. Now, it's not as easy or automatic as it seems, because remember that we are working with teachers. I mean, we are, of course, people with their own insecurities and their own fears. And okay, so we may experience, even if we are coordinators or as ourselves as teachers, when I have to collaborate with someone else, some barriers or something that makes it difficult for me to collaborate with others. And of course, we're going to mention the benefits that we can have by collaborating. So barriers, again, use the chat box. You can add to this list. There are lots of barriers. Maybe you can share with the rest of us the experiences that you had when you had to collaborate. Maybe something happened to you as well. Maybe you feel identified with some of these barriers. This is very common. Imagine that your coordinator comes and says, okay, we're going to start sharing our work, our worksheets, lesson plans, annual plans, projects, whatever. Okay, but I'm new to this position, or I'm just beginning, and maybe my ideas are not very well thought, or maybe this is not good enough. So voices in our head, we are afraid of being judged by more experienced colleagues, maybe, or I don't know, maybe they study at a better teacher training college, and I come from a very small town from, I don't know. So fears, this happens at an emotional and psychological level as well. So we need to be very careful on how we handle this whole process. It can't happen overnight. And then the other side of the coin, I don't trust you. Okay, maybe the groups, I mean, it happened to me as well. The group is very closed, and you have a relationship with one another because you see each other every day. But maybe you go to an institute twice a week and you're not very familiar with your colleagues. And then, I mean, do I trust you? Do I have to take what you say that I have to do and then do it? Do I have to take on this, or be on board on this project that you designed? I mean, is it good enough? So either I'm afraid of my work being judged, or I judge other colleagues' work, piece of work. Okay, so again, it's very delicate. Time constraints. Again, when are we going to share? Are we going to devote one afternoon with no students and we're going to have a meeting and then start thinking of projects to collaborate? Do I have to do it on my own free time? No, I have to correct. I have to plan. I can't do this. I can't analyze your project and then see if it's fitting for my group of students. When am I going to do this? Am I going to get paid extra? Lots of difficulties and things that happen with groups of teachers. And the next one is related to lack of trust. My way of teaching is different than your way of teaching. So do I trust you? And this is related to the last one as well. I have to change if I have to do your project. So do I want to change? I've been doing this for over 20 years. Why would I change? If it worked for me, perfectly fine. After the pandemic, this was an issue because lots of teachers were not familiar with technology, for example, with virtual lessons. So they were really afraid of changing their way of teaching, changing old patterns and their own behaviors, and to be up to date with new technologies and new trends. So as you can see, we could add on to this list. I'm sure if you are sharing, you can share with us more and more barriers, but the benefits that you can get as a group when you start collaborating are great. Of course, you start sharing ideas, you change the perspective if you're open to new ideas and best practices. This works great in other classrooms. Why wouldn't I do it, even if it is different than what I'm used to? Of course, it enhances professional development because I'm evolving as a professional. It increases student achievement because maybe a project that was fantastic and it was developed by someone else, I didn't think of it. It didn't come to my mind. It was someone else's idea, but my students will benefit from that activity, that project, that resource. And it's not about me as a teacher. I mean, my life is easier because I don't have to do anything. I'm using someone else's resources, but then the benefit goes to the group of students. And again, we improve teacher morale, and we, of course, have a better resource utilization because we start sharing. We don't have to create, everyone creating resources and materials from scratch, but we are editing, recycling something that other teachers have previously done, okay? Now, the last part, the final part of this presentation, it's very special for me and for us because I know that my colleagues are here in this session, and I want to take some time to thank them, especially because again, this was a collaborative work among the whole team in Argentina and Chile. So thank you. So what I'm going to share with you is it wasn't done by myself alone. It was a team effort. So let me tell you how this was created. Now, I was telling you before that we have a net of consultants, and I myself, we are constantly in contact with teachers and with coordinators from all over the country and in Chile as well. We always used to get amazing activities, great ideas. Emilia, do you know what I did last year for the topic preparation? The topic phase is one phase of the Trinity exams. And this is working incredibly well. I'm going to share it with you, and maybe you can share it with other teachers. So very organically, I would say very naturally, teachers started sharing in the workshops, and training sessions, things that were working very, very well, best practices, let's say. Now, we got together and we said, okay, it was after the pandemic, we developed a set of resources for our students. And then we said, okay, what can we do? How can we make this available for everyone? Because I can share this, I don't know, topic preparation in another training workshop, or if I visit this school, but it's very few teachers will benefit from that idea. So we came up with the idea of creating and designing and creating a newsletter. This was framed within our initiative from last year, which was Evolving Together. So within Evolving Together, we created this newsletter called Teaching Together. It's emphasizing the power of collaboration and synergy. So I'm going to read a fragment of this of the presentation of the newsletter. It says, teaching together is all about sharing what works best for you with colleagues from other provinces with the aim of creating a collaborative federal and international project. Now, we asked teachers from Argentina and Chile, all over the country, to send best practices, any activities that they know for a fact that work really well, in this case, for the preparation of the Trinity exams. They shared anything because you know that our exams are super communicative. So everything related to preparing a topic or interacting with someone else in speaking tasks or listening tasks or writing tasks. Well, we received lots of activities, and I'm going to show you just some examples for you to have a look at the design and the activities that teachers sent. In this case, for example, a group of teachers sent a full presentation with different activities. It was an amazing PowerPoint with different activities, with acronyms to remember to use in the exam, with videos, memes that they could use. And it was super modern and fresh because it was created by them, especially after the pandemic, when, I can have a textbook, as always, the traditional textbooks, but they were forced to create new material from scratch. So we took advantage of that, and they very generously shared that with teachers from all over the country. Now, they also took the time to develop in a very detailed way the beginning, the middle, and the development, the final stages of activities, sent pictures of kids performing these plays, these crafts, or any activities that were suggested. They also acted out. I mean, the pictures we received were amazing. The quality of the activities were incredible. They also designed some ready to print and ready to use. I mean, they thought of, this was very empathetic, right? I put myself in your shoes. I have this resource, you will benefit from this resource. Go and print it and use it, okay? Use it tomorrow. And then this was great as well, because this teacher or this group of teachers from this particular school, they collected testimonials from students who sat for the Trinity exams, and they share their own experiences and best practices throughout the exam preparation. So again, this is just a glimpse. We did 3 editions of the newsletter, so it's full of activities. And I want to take the advantage and the opportunity of this breakout session to thank and to put a face to this project, because these are some of the wonderful teachers that took the time, the effort, and the resources and shared, in spite of all those barriers. They understood the benefits of sharing those activities with the rest of us all over the country. Now, in these last minutes of the presentation, then I'm going to open up and go back to Monica in a few minutes to open the questions and comments that you may have after this presentation. But the idea, as I said at the beginning, is how can we start? Okay, we can start right now. I can't read the chat right now because I'm sharing my screen, but feel free to contact anybody from your country, share an idea right now, and then, I don't know, write your email in case someone else needs you to share. Let's create a community, okay? It's very powerful, it's very inspiring. And something else that I want to say that it didn't come up in the presentation, but I think it's very important, and it's connected to mental health. That for me, it's very important. Personally, if your impact is very powerful, even if you feel that, what can I do in my community? What can I do in the school that I'm working? You can always be aware of where people are at, and if you see a colleague who is struggling, reach out. Okay, it's very important. Maybe the only thing they need is a word of encouragement. Is someone listening to them, their insecurities, or talking about the group that they are dealing with, talking about a particular student that it's being difficult or challenging them. Just reach out, drink a coffee at the teacher's room, and just be there for them. Even if you're not the language coordinator, just a colleague, being there for another colleague. Now, I want to finish this presentation with a quote for a very inspiring person to me. If you don't know her, please go Google her life, because she's very inspiring. And the phrase says, this is Helen Keller, and she said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So thank you very much for your time, for attending this breakout session. And Monica, back to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Emilia. This was lovely. We've had a lot of comments in the chat box. Our participants saying what incredible collaboration you have presented and told us about. A wonderful idea and a very, very inspiring talk. So lots of positive comments.